7, give it a 7, got 650, looking for 7, 7.5, 7.5, 800, 800, 800, new bidder, 7.5, 800, 800, 8.5, 850, 850.
What's up, guys? I hope you all are doing so well today. We're going to be talking about storage wars, storage auctions, and my brother's experience of going with my mom today to view 30 units that went up for auction.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to thank Christian once again for inviting me to the show. My name is Gilbert. I'm Christian's older brother. Been selling on eBay for 8 months now, and my parents and Christian have over 30 years of selling retail and eBay.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you on again. I know you got to head back to Houston.
Yeah.
So it's cool that we're going to do another video together.
Right.
I personally didn't go to the auction today. My mom and my brother went, and that's more than enough people. So yeah, let's just get right to it, and
sure,
let's, tell me about your experience today. What time did the auction start? How was the energy of the people? Was there a lot of people? How were the bids going? The auctioneer? Let's just go through some of these things and tell me how you thought.
Definitely a lot of great questions, Christian. So to start out, this is my second storage unit auction. The first one I went to was in Alice, and this one's in Corpus Christi, Texas. It's a U-Haul auction. And now Christian said at the beginning of the video, it's 30 units. That was over 4 U-Haul locations. So the first location had 10 unit bids. Second location had 6. Third location had 12. And then the fourth one, which we didn't go to, had 2. We didn't go to that one just because it had a lower amount, and then they also showed us photos of what was in those units, and we felt that it wasn't worth our time to go and see what was in them. Now, a couple of questions that my brother asked is, what was the weather like? What was the overall energy like? So I'll answer a couple of those. So it started at 9 o'clock. And what my mother and I did is we ended up getting ready about 8 o'clock. We left our house at 8:15, and then we ended up showing up there about 8:30. So we wanted to get there early, but not too early. When we got there at 8:30, of course, we went out there and we spoke to people, some of the other competitors that are out there trying to also buy some units. Overall, there were about anywhere from 20 to 30 people, so I think it was quite large, just for that amount of people that did show up.
Yeah, that's definitely a decent amount of people, but it can change. It's always different. Every single auction is different. Sometimes there may be 100 people, sometimes there may be 30 people. These are just things that you have to take into consideration. And the more people there are, the more time it's going to take.
Yeah, and surprisingly today it didn't take too long. So it started at 9 and we did end about 11:30, which my understanding sometimes they go to 1 or 2. So it ended about 2 hours, didn't take too long, especially for the amount of units that they had, which were 30 units. Yeah. Now, as for the weather, my brother had asked me, what was the weather like? Was it very hot? Was it windy? What were the details? For a storage unit auction, you have to be aware that it will be outside. Fortunately enough, it was a combination of both outside and inside at this auction. Now, when it was outside, it was about 90 degrees, which for being the summer wasn't too bad. Still is a little bit warm. I put some sunblock on just to make sure I didn't get even more farmer's tan than I already have. And there was a wind, there was breeze going, so then that cools you down a little bit. Now, it was a hybrid, so I'm saying that it was outdoors, that we also had indoors, which is climate control. And so we had that luck to have both in and outdoors.
The weather plays a huge factor in these auctions. You definitely got to keep up with your weather. If it's hot, you got to take sunblock, you got to take a cap, you got to take maybe an umbrella, water. If it's cold, it can be very cold. It can be windy, it can be rainy. So you need to prepare as the weather goes.
Yep. And another thing that we were talking about is that even though it was climate controlled on some of the units, now you do have to take into consideration that you will be walking a lot. So I checked my iPhone after the fact, and in total from those 2 hours, we had walked about 1.5 miles. So that doesn't sound like a lot. You don't think you're gonna walk that much. In reality, you can walk a lot at these auctions. Another thing you need to consider is that on some of the units, you have to climb stairs to get to the units. So there is going to be a lot of ascending and descending to bid on those units.
If you're buying a storage unit upstairs, it's almost a whole different game. You may have to be dealing with stairs, you may have to be dealing with elevators, and they can be very difficult, especially if you're going to be moving furniture.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of those units today, I'd say about half of them had some type of furniture in them, whether they be sofas, whether they be recliners, whether they be tables, whether they be chairs. We did see a good amount of units today having some sort of those items.
Yep. And like with this auction, as he stated, it wasn't just in one location. You're going from one location to another location to another location to another location.
Yep.
So time is a factor. It would go a lot quicker if it was just all in one location. But now we're making the bids, we're purchasing, we're moving to the next spot. And once we get to one spot, everyone has to arrive. And then it's a process. It could be a whole day process.
Right, exactly. You got to sign in. They got to take your name. They got to take your number, because if you do purchase, then at the end, you have to take into consideration that you have to do a payment on the spot. So I'm not sure how some of the other auctions go, but I do know that they say after you bid and you purchase, if you are the person that purchased the highest, then you have to pay immediately. And then depending on the amount of units, so if you purchase a single unit, you have 24 hours to clear the stuff from the unit. Now they told us there, if you purchase 2 or more units, you're gonna have 48 hours to remove all that stuff. Now, when you consider how many units there were, if you did take anywhere from 1 to 5 units, which I believe the highest bidder took about 4 or 5, that's going to be a lot of moving, a lot of walking, a lot of time that you're going to invest into bidding, into traveling to get to the place, into moving all the stuff, into unloading, into loading. So there are a lot of factors at play.
Yeah. Keep in mind that these are just our opinions. Everyone sees things differently. To us, maybe a locker won't be worth it. To other people, maybe they'll be in love with the locker and it will definitely be worth it to them. So, as I said, just keep in mind these are our personal opinions.
Right, definitely. That's key. And what everybody's wondering is, what did we see? What did I end up seeing today? So let's go ahead and discuss some of that. So Christian had asked me, how did the units look? So I'd say out of the 30 units, maybe about half of them, from my opinion, it didn't seem like there were anything worth purchasing.
But there were still people bidding on them, right?
There were still people bidding on them, that's correct. So I didn't personally, my mom and I didn't personally see anything, but that's very important to note is that people still bid on those. Now, the reason why we didn't really find those appealing is because either they had items that we weren't interested in, that we don't sell, or the second thing is that maybe they didn't have enough items in them worth our time. Okay, those are two very vital things to consider. The last one is that maybe the units that we did see had too much trash, and trash is a big factor when you are going to these things.
It's part of being in the storage unit business. You will have to deal with trash when you buy these storage units. Each and every operation has their own rules, but one of the rules that seems to stick very, very clearly is that you do have to take everything. You do have to empty out the storage unit. If you don't follow these rules, the owners are going to get upset with you. Maybe not after the first time, but eventually they will not want you coming back if you're leaving all your trash in the storage units.
Yep. Reputation is key in business. Another thing, so going back to those 3 things, maybe there weren't items that we were interested, or maybe there weren't enough, or we saw too much trash. So that was about half of those. Now the other half, I'd say that we did try to place a bid at our price. So you do have to pay attention to the items and whether you're going to be able to sell the items and how long is it going to take to sell the items. Now, having that in mind, if the price goes too high beyond what we're willing to pay, that is going to be, you are in business, you have to profit. That is going to be something that you have to consider, and you have to it has to play a key role in your operation. Okay, is there something you want to mention?
Keep in mind, just personal opinions. Too high for Gilbert may not be too high for me. $1,000 may seem like a lot for Gilbert, but maybe I'm willing to go all the way to $5,000. So just so many people think differently. There's so many factors. At the end of the day, the only person that really knows the only person that's gonna know what was in the locker was the person that bought it, because they're gonna be the ones that are going through it. But following up on that, I want to ask, what did you see today, if there was anything that kind of stood out to you, caught your attention, just something memorable, or maybe you didn't see anything?
Yeah, so overall, I'd say that they fell into those three categories, and that was half of them. Now, the other half, we did see a couple items. So to Christian's point, there was one unit, it was a smaller unit, I believe it was like a 5x8 or a 5x10. The majority of that unit was empty. Now, the items that were in there, I did see some Beanie Babies in a plastic container. Now, Beanie Babies, they do have a long-standing reputation of desirability. That's just one of the things, that's like a cultural toy that has withstood the test of time. Now, keep in mind that not all Beanie Babies are gonna sell, but there are some out there that will go for high dollars. That was one of the items I saw. And then another one, I saw some Fisher-Price toys. They were like the little plastic toys that have like the buses, and they have some other automobiles and whatnot. So the little figurines, you put those toys into the automobiles and then kids can play with them. Those were two items that I saw. A lot of other stuff, there was exercise equipment. Now, some of that, it can be good, but remember, you have to move it all, so that can be a little bit heavy. So those are less desirable. Now, if they're in perfect condition, that's another story, but these were a little bit beaten up, so we kind of stayed away from those.
Yeah, those are some cool things.
Yeah.
But just your opinion,
Right.
Maybe somebody else saw the storage rooms and they had no care whatsoever for the Beanie Babies, for the toys. Maybe they were totally interested in just the furniture or the exercise equipment.
Right.
Everyone is entitled to operate their business as they please. You can do furniture, vintage toys, exercise equipment. There are just so many ways you can go about it. There's no one set clear path to buying storage units.
Yeah, and on some of the furniture, there were couches, there was a recliner. The thing is, they're facing away from you. And so when they're facing away from you, you can't really tell the condition of the couch. And they don't let you walk in there and flip it over to see whether it's scratched or torn. So that's a consideration that you have to always keep in mind. That's a risk in this business. Now, one last thing that I did see, there was a jewelry box, and my mom also saw that jewelry box. We couldn't go in there and open it. It did look a little bit older. Now, with that, you are taking a gamble, so you don't know if there's going to be something in there, or it could be completely empty and the box can be broken and it's just being propped up by something. So that was something else that caught our attention. We didn't end up placing a bid on it just because, in our opinion, it went too high, but that was another item that stood out.
So overall, I mean, how did you feel about today? You didn't end up getting any units. Were you angry? Were you sad about it? Were you happy that you didn't have to go in and clear out all the units in the hot weather? I mean, how'd you feel?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was more of the latter. We were definitely happy that we didn't have to go in there and clear out all the units, because like I said, just based on what we saw, they were going for too much. And then also it was warmer, and you always have to keep in mind that you're gonna have to move all that stuff out. I think overall it was a good experience for me, because this is the second one that I've been to. And another thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that it didn't take all day. It only took 2 hours from when we got there, when the bids started being placed, to us leaving. So it took about 2.5 hours. So overall, I think it was a success, Even though you don't walk away with a unit, you always have to remember the positives and the negatives.
So in the back of your head, though, there wasn't any urge at all to, like, man, I wanted to look into that unit. It would have been kind of cool to buy it just to see what was in there. I wanted to open up some of those boxes.
For one unit, yeah. For one unit, there were a bunch of boxes in there, and there was some furniture. So it was like, okay, it wasn't the ideal unit for us. So there was that temptation to place a bid and to see what's in there. And I would say that was the unit that we would have wished we would have placed a bid on at the right price.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, it's different every single time. So what we're describing to you today, this was today, and Saturday is Saturday, Sunday is Sunday. It's just such a unique experience every single time. And Gilbert, yeah, I mean, I want to thank you for being on the show. It's good to have you on. It's good to hear about your experience, about the storage unit today, the auction.
Yep.
And yeah, is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Thanks a lot for watching, and thank you for Christian bringing me on. Everybody like and subscribe to the video.
Y'all take care.
Y'all
Have a
take
good
care.
rest of the week.
Bye.